My name is Camila Smith, and I was raised in the bustling world of sports nutrition. My parents, the founders of Smith Nutrition, taught me the ropes. Despite our family's wealth, my upbringing was anything but pampered. My father instilled in me the importance of diligence from a very young age. I vividly recall my first day at the office. I was just 8 years old, wearing my favorite blue dress adorned with tiny flowers, trying to appear as professional as possible. "Camila," my father said as he set up a small desk for me near his. "One day, all of this could be yours, but you'll have to earn it, just like I did." These words profoundly shaped my upbringing. Unlike other kids who enjoyed their summers poolside, I was busy learning about inventory management and customer service. My mother occasionally fretted that I was missing out on a typical childhood, but I cherished every moment at the company. It became my second home. College sped by in a flurry of business courses and internships at my father's company, where I worked from the warehouse up, with no exceptions. The long-standing employees, who had known me since childhood, respected my dedication to learning the business from the ground up. Post-graduation, I immersed myself in the company, my days filled with back-to-back meetings, detailed reports, and strategic planning sessions. Romance was an alien concept. My college roommate, Mala, often teased that I was wedded to my work. Everything shifted during our company's annual holiday party. I arrived late, having stayed back to finalize some quarterly reports. When I entered, the party was already buzzing. That's when I met Liam from our Oklahoma City branch. He was tall, with inviting brown eyes and a smile that washed away the weariness of a 15-hour workday. "You must be Camila," he greeted, offering a handshake. "I've heard a lot about you." We spent the evening discussing work, our families, and our aspirations. Liam seemed to understand me in a way no one else ever had. When he asked for my number, it felt like something clicked into place. Following that night, Liam and I kept in touch constantly, starting each day with his "good morning," beautiful texts and ending them with long calls. Despite the distance, our connection deepened. One evening after a particularly long video chat, I suggested, "Why don't you transfer to the main office? It would be great for your career, and we could be together." There was a pause before Liam gently declined, citing his close-knit family in Oklahoma City as his reason to stay. Disappointed, yet understanding, I contemplated his counterproposal, relocating to Oklahoma City myself. After mulling it over for a day, I approached my father for advice, explaining my situation and introducing him to the idea of Liam. I was surprised to see a smile spread across my father's face. "I was wondering when you'd ask," he remarked. "Liam has a solid reputation, and the Oklahoma City branch could indeed benefit from your leadership. If this is what you want, I'll make it happen." Moved by my father's support and excited about this new chapter, I realized that sometimes taking the path less traveled could lead to the most rewarding journeys. 3 weeks after my decision, I found myself in Liam's Oklahoma City apartment, navigating through a sea of moving boxes. "Welcome home," he greeted, his arms enveloping me warmly. Standing there, I felt truly at home, certain that I was right where I belonged. The opportunity to meet his family came quicker than I anticipated. They all lived under one roof in a modest 2-story house, his parents, Benjamin and Carla, his sister Willow, and her teenage son Dylan. The nerves kicked in as we approached their home. Carla's first words as I entered were, "Your family must live in a mansion. This must seem so quaint to you." I could feel my cheeks redden with her remark. "Oh no, not at all," I hurried to explain. "We've always lived quite ordinarily. No mansions or private jets. But with your family's wealth." Benjamin began, but I cut in. "I've worked for everything since I was young. My dad instilled the value of earning your keep. Honestly, I'm more at ease with simpler things." I noticed the slight looks of disappointment they exchanged, but I chose to ignore them. Willow, eyeing my simple sweater and jeans, remarked snidely, "If I had your money, I wouldn't be caught dead in anything but designer labels." I just shrugged, unsure how to respond. Liam, squeezing my hand under the table, remained silent. 3 months later, Liam proposed during a simple walk in the park. It was a modest affair, just the two of us, a plain ring, and a sincere proposal. I said yes without hesitation. However, when it came to wedding planning, we faced our first major disagreement. Liam envisioned an opulent wedding, a large venue, hundreds of guests, the full works. "Babe, we don't need all that," I argued. "Let's have something small and meaningful." He reluctantly agreed, and we had a modest ceremony with just immediate family. Yet during the reception, I overheard Carla whispering to her sister, "I expected something much grander from someone of her background. All this, it's so plain." I pretended not to hear, but their words cut deeper than I admitted. The ink had barely dried on our marriage certificate when the questions about housing began. It was during a typical Sunday dinner at Benjamin and Carla's. Willow was on her phone, Dylan was playing video games, and Benjamin was watching sports on TV. "So, Camila," Carla started casually, passing the mashed potatoes, "have you talked to your father about buying you a house? I was just looking at listings there yesterday, a beautiful 6-bedroom with a pool." I nearly choked on my water. "Actually, we're planning to save up and buy our place," I managed to say. The room fell silent. Willow paused, fork midair. Benjamin muted the TV and turned to look at me. Carla's face froze into that all-too-familiar artificial smile. They exchanged glances that seemed to convey, "I made a faux pas." "But surely your father wouldn't mind," Benjamin started, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. "It's just natural for parents to help their kids get started, especially when they can." I responded firmly yet politely, sitting up straighter. "Liam and I want to do this on our own. We're both working, and we plan to save. I believe in earning what you have." Liam reached for my hand under the table. His grip was firm but his palms slightly sweaty. "I support Camila on this," he said, although his voice lacked conviction. "Besides, my apartment is fine for now. I've been renting it for years." The tension in the room was palpable. Carla's eyes sparkled with what seemed like a sudden epiphany. Setting down her wine glass a bit too forcefully, she proposed, "Well, if you're staying in the apartment, Camila should cover the rent. After all, she earns quite a bit more than Liam. It's only fair." I watched, feeling a sting of discomfort, as Liam quickly nodded in agreement. "That makes sense," he said, avoiding eye contact. "It's $6,000 a month." The amount caught me off guard. Oklahoma City was expensive, but $6,000 seemed steep for our area. Nonetheless, not wanting to stir up any more tension, I agreed lightly. "Sure, that's fair." So, it was settled. Each month, I handed over $6,000 to Liam, who would then supposedly handle the rent. Occasionally, I noticed him making the transfer on his phone, swiftly shutting the screen if I approached. This arrangement continued for some time until one evening, a nagging thought interrupted my usual review of our monthly expenses. Over dinner, with the ambient noise of the city wafting through our open window, I ventured, "Since I'm paying the rent now, maybe we should put the lease in my name. It could be beneficial for tax purposes." Liam's reaction was oddly swift and tense. He nearly dropped his fork onto his half-eaten pasta, and his face lost color. "No, that wouldn't work." He replied quickly, his voice unusually high, "I've been renting from Mr. Ethan for years. He trusts me. We don't want to upset a good thing." His response unsettled me, the way he couldn't meet my eyes, the tremor in his hands as he reached for his water glass. Despite pushing these doubts aside, life in Oklahoma City had settled into a routine. I was acclimating to my role at the branch office, managing my team well and maintaining regular video calls with my parents. Everything appeared perfect, except for a recurring issue that increasingly troubled me. It first happened on a Tuesday when I returned home early from work with a headache, only to find Carla and Willow lounging on my couch, watching my TV and devouring the expensive salmon I had bought for Liam's birthday. "Oh, Camila," Carla said nonchalantly, not bothering to rise, "we were just having a little snack." I stood frozen, key in hand, as they sat with their shoes on my coffee table, magazines strewn about, and my kitchen in disarray. This intrusion soon became a regular annoyance. I would either come home to find them there or find traces of their visits, empty food containers or my belongings displaced, my closet evidently rifled through. They had keys, of course. One evening, I attempted to address it with Liam. "Honey, don't you think it's strange that your mom and sister just come over whenever they want?" He barely glanced up from his phone, dismissive. "Their family, Camila. You're being dramatic. Just calm down." But I couldn't just calm down, especially not when I caught them giggling over my college diary that they had found in an unpacked box, invading my privacy. Resolutely, I confronted them. "We need to talk. This isn't okay. You can't just come into our home uninvited or rummage through our things." Instantly, Carla's demeanor changed. She burst into tears, playing the victim. "How dare you," she cried, as if I had wronged her. "After everything we've done to welcome you into our family, I knew you were too good for us with your fancy background." As if on cue, Liam entered, witnessing the scene, his mother sobbing, Willow glaring, and me standing my ground, shaken but firm. Standing there in disbelief, I could hardly comprehend the scene unfolding before me. "What have you done?" he demanded, rushing to console his mother. "She's trying to push us away," Carla sobbed into his shoulder, claiming we weren't welcome here anymore. Before I could explain, Liam interrupted. "How could you treat them this way? They are my family." After they left, Liam confronted me, his expression more severe than ever. "You need to make this right," he instructed sternly. "Get them something nice, really nice, and apologize." The next day, I went shopping after work, picking out a designer handbag that Carla had been eyeing and a pair of high-end boots for Willow. I felt a pang of guilt as I wrapped them, questioning my motives. When I delivered the gifts, their acceptance was tinged with arrogance. "We knew you'd come around," Carla remarked, barely glancing my way as she admired her new handbag. "These will do," Willow chimed in, slipping into her boots. That evening, Liam finally spoke to me, his tone light. "See? Was that so hard?" he said, kissing my cheek. But something fell off, a change I couldn't quite identify yet. Following the incident, things deteriorated further. Carla and Willow mastered the art of gift extortion. Every minor celebration turned into a demand. "You know it's National Sister Day next week," Willow would hint, eyeing a luxury item. "It's the anniversary of when I first held Liam as a baby," Carla declared another time. "A spa weekend seems fitting to commemorate it." The demands became relentless, encompassing Mother's Day, birthdays, Christmas, and even Groundhog Day. When I hesitated over a pricey gift for Arbor Day, Carla broke down at a family dinner. "Some people just don't value family loyalty," she cried, while Willow consoled her. Later, Liam confronted me. "Why must you be so difficult? They're your family now too." But when his mother demanded a luxury watch for National Ice Cream Day, I had to speak up. "Liam, don't you see? This is excessive." He merely shrugged. "If you can afford it, why not help the family?" As if the financial pressures weren't enough, Dylan, Willow's teenage son, began visiting more frequently. Initially, I tried to be patient, understanding the challenges of adolescence. However, Dylan's disrespect escalated quickly. One evening, after I spent hours preparing a special family recipe, Dylan dismissed the meal with a harsh, "This is garbage." When I denied him money for the movies, he stormed out, accusing me of being miserly on purpose. That night, I attempted to discuss Dylan's behavior with Liam. "He was really out of line today. Could you maybe talk to him?" I pleaded. Liam, distracted by his phone, replied indifferently, "You need to handle it yourself. Think of it as practice for when we have our kids." The next day, Dylan returned brazenly, demanding money for a new video game. The ongoing disrespect and manipulation were taking a toll, and I realized that something had to change, not just with the gifts, but within our family dynamics. As I declined his request, Dylan sprawled across our couch, cranked up the TV volume to its maximum, and began making snide remarks about fake humble rich people. I turned to my husband, seeking some form of support, but he just walked out of the room, leaving me to deal with his smirking nephew alone. At that moment, feeling isolated in my own home, the loneliness was overwhelming. It's startling how much can change, or how much you can convince yourself things will improve if you just keep trying, remain patient, and continue to give. I'm visiting Mom and Dad this weekend, I mentioned one morning during breakfast, hoping he might join. He barely looked up from his phone. Can't. Promised I'd help them with some things around the house. The drive to my parents' home was tranquil. Mom prepared my favorite lasagna, and Dad cracked his usual dad jokes. For a few precious hours, I felt like the old me, the Camila who knew exactly who she was and what she wanted from life. But peace can be fragile, shattered in an instant. When I returned to our apartment on Sunday evening, the first thing that hit me was the stench: stale beer, pizza, and something foul. The living room was a disaster zone: empty beer cans, cigarette butts in solo cups, towers of greasy pizza boxes. Dylan and a handful of teenagers were sprawled across the floor, evidence of a wild party. "Get up!" I shouted, my voice trembling with anger. "All of you, out now!" The teenagers scrambled to their feet, gathering their belongings, except Dylan, who stretched out lazily and gave me that all-too-familiar smirk. "Why should I leave? I live here now," he declared. My heart sank as he casually mentioned a fallout with his mother and grandmother, deciding this was better than their rules. "Uncle Liam said I could crash here. We rent this apartment, and we have problems," I managed, my voice steady despite my boiling frustration. "Give me your keys now." Dylan laughed, a laugh that pierced through the tension. "Rent this apartment? That's funny. This is Uncle Liam's place. It's been his ever since great-grandpa left it to him," he said. My head spun as he continued, "Everyone knows that when great-grandpa died 7 years ago, this place went to him." I was speechless, gasping for air. 4 years of making rent payments. Every time I had suggested putting the lease in my name, every evasive maneuver he had made, every secretive glance at his phone during those transactions, it had all been a lie. Seeing my distress, Dylan's demeanor shifted from cockiness to something resembling sympathy. "Look," he said awkwardly, patting my shoulder, "there's something else you should know." He pulled out his phone, fumbling with it. "I've been recording some of their conversations. Started doing it when they were talking about me, but, well, they talk about you a lot too." Liam's laugh filled the room from the speaker. "It's perfect," he was saying. $6,000 a month, straight into my pocket. She doesn't even question it. My heart sank as Dylan played more recordings, each one unveiling deeper layers of betrayal. As Willow's voice echoed from the recording, boasting about family loyalty and how easily I'd cave, the gravity of their deceit sank deeper. "She got a new designer bag from her last week," she gloated, sure of her manipulation. But it was Carla's voice that cut even sharper. "Just make sure you get her pregnant soon. Once there's a baby, her dad will definitely buy you a house. He wouldn't let his grandchild live in an apartment." The sting of betrayal intensified. Yet the worst revelations were still unfolding. Dylan hesitated before playing another clip. Liam's voice, slightly slurred, filled the room. "She's such an idiot. Can't even satisfy me in bed. Thank God for Chloe, Marilyn, and what's her name from accounting." Carla's caution followed, her tone casual yet calculating. "Just be careful, honey. Don't let Camila catch you. At least not until we've squeezed every penny we can out of her." The phone nearly slipped through my numb fingers, but Dylan caught it. Could you send those to me?" My voice cracked under the weight of my heartbreak. He nodded and quickly transferred the recordings. As I received the notification, Dylan gathered his belongings at the door. He paused, turning back with a somber look. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "They're all snakes, you know. Always have been. Even Mom. I guess that's why they dislike me so much. I can't pretend like they do. With a soft click, the door shut behind him, leaving me alone in the trashed apartment, a stark metaphor for my marriage. A beautiful facade hiding nothing but rot underneath. Without bothering to clean up, I got into my car and drove straight to Carla and Benjamin's house, where I knew they would be having their Sunday family dinner. They were all there, gathered around the dining table in a scene that could have been lifted from a Norman Rockwell painting, a false depiction of family unity. As I walked in, Carla's fake smile widened. "Camila, we weren't expecting you. How was your visit with your parents?" Ignoring her, I fixed my gaze on Liam. "Show me the rental agreement for our apartment," I demanded. The room fell silent. Liam's fork froze midair. "What rental agreement?" he faltered. "The lease." "Show it to me," I insisted. He recovered quickly, flashing that charming smile that once melted my heart. "Oh, honey, you know Mr. Ethan doesn't do formal contracts. We've known each other for years." "Mr. Ethan doesn't exist," I interrupted sharply. "The apartment belongs to you. It always has." Carla quickly tried to deflect, her voice unnaturally high. "Camila, dear, would you like some pot roast? I tried that recipe you mentioned." "Shut up, Carla," I snapped, my voice icy, silencing the room. I had never spoken to them like that before. Turning back to Liam, I pressed on, "What have you been doing with my $6,000 every month for the last 3 years?" He chuckled nervously, sweat beginning to show on his forehead. "Come on, Camila, it's not a big deal. So I own the apartment. What difference does it make? We're married." "What difference?" I echoed, pulling out my phone and playing the recordings. Liam's voice filled the room, boasting about the money he pocketed from me without a second thought. The recordings played on, unveiling their schemes and mockery, their plans for exploiting my trust to secure more money from my family. The color drained from their faces. Their own words condemned them. As the last echoes of the recordings faded, the room was enveloped in a silence so deep you could have heard a pin drop. Liam had turned ghost white. Willow seemed on the verge of sickness, and Carla, meticulously applying makeup, did little to mask her sheer terror. "I'm divorcing you, Liam," I declared, my voice unwavering. "Expect the papers this week. And if you try to contact me about anything other than the divorce proceedings, I'll make these recordings public. I'm sure the business community would be intrigued to learn how you scammed your wife out of $216,000. Without waiting for their response, I turned and walked out, their feeble protests fading into the background. I drove back to what was technically his apartment and packed my belongings with methodical precision. By sunset, my car was packed, and I was on my way to my parents' house. My parents were still awake when I arrived. One look at my face told them all they needed to know: something was profoundly wrong. I shared everything with them, playing the damning recordings. My father's expression darkened with each passing moment. "I'll handle this," he assured me after I finished. True to his word, by the next day, Liam had been fired, and my father ensured that his reputation in the business world was left in ruins. The divorce proceedings were swift. Liam initially tried to contest them, but the evidence in the recordings was irrefutable, especially the parts detailing the financial deceit. The judge showed particular interest in the fraudulent transactions. Liam ended up with nothing but his apartment and a tarnished name. Months later, I found myself back at headquarters, immersing myself in work and beginning the slow process of rebuilding my life. It was then that I received a text from Dylan. We agreed to meet for coffee. He appeared changed, more mature, less hostile. "I got a job at the car wash," he shared. "Moved out of Mom's place after they discovered I was the one who gave you the recordings. It was the best decision I ever made. I could help you. Get you a position at the company," I offered. He shook his head, a faint smile on his lips. "Thanks, but I need to do this on my own. Clean slate, you know. Besides, I'm saving up for community college." I understood perfectly. Sometimes the only way forward is to leave everything behind and start anew, building something authentic from scratch. That night, in my new apartment, my real rental with a legitimate lease in my name, I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back was not the one who had fallen for Liam's charms 3 years ago. She was stronger, wiser, and genuinely free at last. I picked up my phone and began deleting their numbers one by one. As the last light of day glinted off the diamond on my ring finger, my grandmother's ring, not the one Liam had given me, it shattered into 1,000 points of light. Outside, the city buzzed with the energy of the evening, ripe with possibilities and new beginnings. I was ready to embrace mine.